NATO here to cast, and we'll be back for the post-game analysis, so off we go.
Great banter. So we're actually live into the game, kind of out of nowhere. So already it would appear that G2 Kingwin have picked themselves up the first round. And with the SMGs are looking to take down Cloud9. So not entirely sure how we came to this point, NATO, but it appears that Cloud9 are trying to battle back. They had no Kevlar coming into this round, and now it all ends up on Skadoodle in a 1 versus 4. The bomb has been dropped just behind him, and he's been killed as well from Scream. So G2 Kingwin kicking Cash off with a quick 2-0.
It's a bit hard to find something to analyze when you get into the game late and we're actually already having a pause. Let's hope it's something that's quickly fixed. I mean, at this event so far, we really haven't had many issues. We have had a few issues, but not in terms of, you know, PC issues. We had one server crash that affected a round that had to be restarted. Yeah. But besides that, we've only had tactical pauses, I believe, which is, I mean, that is very, very solid. It's often that you have PC issues, but yeah, it's been going really, really well.
I certainly agree with that. I think a lot of delays have typically been before the game started, just getting the players in, obviously into the player booths. Not entirely sure what the reason for this pause is, but as you can see from the players, pretty much just sitting there chilling for now. I would be very confused right now from both teams' perspective as to what's going on. It is pretty late here as well in Lithuania, and you know, going back to what the analyst was saying before, I think that was a soul-destroying, like a soul-crushing loss for G2. Again, being so close yet so far. Now they're fighting for their place. The winner of this game will face off against CLG in the quarterfinals. The loser has the arduous, terrifying task of playing against Envious.
Yeah, I mean, any team would be looking to go against CLG instead of Envious, I'm
Absolutely.
sure. And as soul-crushing as such defeats can be, I still think that G2 can be very proud with what they actually managed to accomplish. I don't think many people would have predicted them to be so close to actually ending out the series with a win. And therefore, you know, if I was G2 personally, I don't think I'd be that tilted. I'd be obviously a bit disappointed that you weren't able to close out the game, but the result was there. I'd be way more tilted if it was just a complete stomp, but they had a very, very good showing, and hopefully they can repeat what they showed us last time.
Yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from, because a lot of people would have heavily favoured Astralis to take that game, and yet it went to a third map and went right down to the wire, of course, in overtime. So definitely see where you're coming from there. Cloud9, of course, an A team, says United States, but of course they got the Canadian. Mr. Canada himself.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. It's true.
Kingwin comprised of French and Belgians, and I kind of hear some noises in game, so I'm not sure if that's a good sign. Things could be getting back underway again. That's the dream. Fingers crossed that we'll be jumping back into the action, and indeed that is the case. So Cloud9 with a limited arsenal of weapons, just upgraded pistols by and large. They had about $3,000 between the teams, so I was curious if maybe they'd go for a couple of Kevlars behind this. Shroud is going to connect the first shot onto Scream. P250 in hand. And with this boost coming in from G2 Kingwin, they're going to try and wrap around the Cloud9 adversary. Skadoodle's there as well, but starting to drop like flies. The weapons in the hands of G2 Kingwin, too strong to contend with, and Cloud9 will concede a third round. Expected though, here comes the buy.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, typically if you get the bomb plant in the pistol round, you are going to be going for that buy a round earlier. Since we missed the pistol round, I guess what we can conclude from the buy coming in now instead, seeing as we just had two rounds for Cloud9 without armor, was that they did not get the bomb plant in the pistol round. And funnily enough, Smiths is staying with an SMG, and we've been seeing not Cloud9, apologies, G2 doing this all day long, picking up MP9s and MP7s and just hanging on to them, even in the buy rounds, which is very interesting.
It certainly is. The only player that could find himself taking 6 foot under very quickly is Skadoodle without the head armor, but he's going to be deterred from the boost courtesy of that Molotov. It's a standard molly. You're expecting a lot of teams to run with that once they have the funds to afford it, which G2 Kingwin certainly do. And Scream is just holding on. We saw Scream consistently going for the boost earlier on when Cloud9 faced off against G2 Kingwin when they were on the T side. And Cloud9, the order of the day, really, when we watched the first best of 3 hours Casimir Striker, was just a case of entry picks or bust. But that's really all they seem to go for. So I'm curious now if they've had a discussion about this and decided to go for more set plays.
Yeah, I mean, now they've got that entry that you're talking about, so maybe they can actually pick up this first fire, and it would help them massively. I think G2, having just played a game, has a slight upper hand as they are kind of warm and definitely motivated. Both teams obviously wanting to win this match so that they can get the easier opponent. And Shox is just looking for the guy playing door. Unfortunately, can't quite connect with his shot so far.
Certainly not. 25 seconds. They have to get a move on now, Cloud9. And Shox holding down on Highway just for a couple of moments. May have brought up the rest of his team. They so desperately require. The SMG still in the hands of Smiths. Getting down to crunch time. 10 seconds. Can't get anything done. And that's probably the round slipping away from G2 Kinguin. An existence has to try and make something spectacular happen. And he's just going to meet Shroud, who domes him instantly. So Cloud9 finally on the board. And some of those weapons, of course, going to have to be replenished. So the MP7 ended up being quite fruitless. And I got to say, if he had an M4 there, things could have gone very different.
I was actually just about to say that. You know, there's only about 15 seconds on the clock when he goes to the goes for the first peak. And had he had an M4, if he downs the first player, there are two players quite close, but they still have to go and flush him out of his position. And they didn't really use any nades to do that. And it did seem like they were sure that he was actually even in that position. So had he just taken a bit of time off the clock there, I'm sure they would have won the round.
They ran through this time as Freakazoid, you can hear him taking damage from the Molotov. The push comes through. He was expecting the flash. You could see from this angle. He's trying to shield his eyes from a potential pop flash coming on in. And the fact that Kinguin peeked without the flash completely caught him unawares. So the early entry has been negated from G2 Kinguin. They still have the open hands of Smiths, who was an absolute monster earlier today on Cash. And it would appear that Cloud9 have gone back to the drawing board. They still have utility plated with though NATO, so they can still use those smokes to try and execute.
Yeah, and RPK needing to find a frag, and he finds the first, but he's not aware of the guy on the boost. That's Shroud going to be taking him down. So it's back into a 3 versus 3 situation now. Cloud9 with mid control, it seems. And it seems like Cloud9 really likes to take mid control. They do use the Molotov into the vent quite a bit. Shox needs to be careful here. If he goes down, that might just be the bomb site giving up completely.
That's it. Shox is the last line of defense here for G2 Kinguin, and he realizes it. He uses a flashbang, will be relocating back to the site. No utility though on the side of G2. And Shroud is lurking through connector. This should be Smith's frag, and indeed it will be. Now he can turn his attention onto A main. The flash, I believe that was a flash from the terrorist that actually derped and flashed them both in the face. And Smiths and Shox will chime together and shut down the charge. So a bit of a rough round there in the end for Cloud9.
Yeah, and it's actually down to Smiths getting that frag onto Shroud. If he does not connect with the shot, they lose the round. If he does not know that Shroud is there, or at least has the thought of it, they lose the round. So not only is it well played by him to actually have the thought of Shroud possibly creeping through the connector area there, but at the same time, the fact that he lands the shot is absolutely instrumental and ends up swinging the round in their favor massively.
I think I'm curious as well, NATO, because we kind of went live a bit prematurely. I have no idea what the veto was. So it's Cash. Do you reckon Cobblestone?
Train, perhaps?
Train. It could be an exact repeat of the previous best of three. I'll be very curious if that's the case. Couple pistols for Cloud9, however. Stewie and Shroud will be running Wild West style. Existence pushes into Garage and gets the upper hand on both Stewie and Nothing. So very nice push from him, and G2 Kinguin again are putting the hammer down onto Cloud9, who can't do anything about this. Skadoodle is going to stop the clean sweep from coming through, but he will bite the dust instantly afterwards. And C9, when we actually walked backstage beforehand, they walked past me and they looked exhausted, because they'd obviously been waiting a long time since their previous game. So I wonder if that's maybe factoring in a tiny bit here.
I'm pretty sure they've been sleeping actually, yeah, in the practice room as well. So definitely looked maybe not so much exhausted since they just slept, but it's kind of that feeling when you just wake up after a long sleep, but you kind of still need more sleep. I think that's kind of the case here. Existence taking the first, then the second, finding more actually. Oh, it's Skadoodle lending him a helping hand there as he takes down Freakazoid. RPK with another one, and it's all left to Shroud, who is in a 1 versus 5 situation. Could have actually potentially been knife there, but Shox, no BM, goes for the MP9 kill, and it's another round on the board for the CTs.
I'm pretty surprised Shroud even got a kill from that position, because he was getting encircled. There was one right behind him as he landed the P250 headshot, so a bit of an awkward place. But Cloud9, that was effectively an eco, so you're not expecting much. Now here comes another buy. Let's see if there's an AWP in the hands of Skadoodle. No, there isn't. Didn't have enough funds. He'd had to go glass cannon mode. Cloud9 now. In fact, I don't think he's had enough to go for a glass cannon overall with the utility that he picked up.
Sounds very likely, but on the other hand, though, we have Smiths who definitely have the money for this AWP, and nothing already dropping that scream with the entry frag into this round. Now, Smiths is going to be seeing a few players running out into the focus area, and they're playing retake A here, which I think is a smart choice. You don't want to give up, well, you don't mind giving up the bomb site in this case when you already have the numerical advantage. Scream getting yet another frag, and then Smiths also with one, so it's a 5 versus 2 situation, and just looking gruesome here for the North Americans, who are now stuck pretty much in the bomb site. Freakazoid actually has to play aggressive here and go and gain some map control, but in the meantime, his teammate gets taken down, and that's Shroud. But now Freakazoid takes down one and can't quite get the second, so it's RPK closing out that round, and 7-1 on the CT side of Cash.
Exactly, and the last time these two played, obviously earlier today, Cloud9 took a 5-0 lead when they started on the T side after winning the pistol and converting the subsequent rounds. So they had a great foundation to build off, and then G2 came back and ended up getting to around the 10-8 mark. So I think me and Striker actually said this at the time, that if Cloud9 didn't win the pistol, it could have been like a 10-1, 10-2 kind of scoreline, and that seems to be where we're headed right now. This is so sketchy for C9, and again, I just feel like this is going to be an all-out rush with these pistols. There's not really much else they can do in this situation. Smith is going to leg up Skadoodle, who will be finished straight off screen with 2 kills. Shox is there as well, and Freakazoid and Nothing with an impossible task, and will be dispatched with haste. G2 with an 8th round.
Yeah, and impossible task is a pretty good description. That definitely seemed like it was never going to happen here, and 8-1 up on the CT side. Mind you, this is a slightly T-favored map, and 8-1 is definitely not what you're wanting to see if you're a Cloud9 player here. Now, you briefly touched the subject of the veto process, and I think it's very likely that we'd be seeing Cash train in Cobblestone without knowing it, as the match was very close, and as you're bringing it up here on HLTV, that is actually the case.
Yep.
It was a very close game, and it's understandable that both teams want to play the same maps. Now, Shroud opens up into the round with actually not just one, but 2, a double here. Both Smiths and Scream taken out. And they do still have another guy on the ace bomb site, but it's going to be a tall order for him to actually hang on to this bomb site.
Certainly will be. You still have 2 incendiaries on the side of G2, so maybe if they can place them perfectly, there is a chance for them to hold off the onslaught. Shox with 2, and he's still going to be able to hide behind the smoke and reload. RPK, what's gone wrong for Cloud9? They were looking a shoe-in to take this round. They desperately needed one, and it's just been completely crippled by G2, and fair enough, Nothing has somewhat tried to equalise the odds, but he's down to 6 HP, Nato. There's just absolutely no hope here. It would be more G2 derping than his brilliance, I have to feel. Especially as they've got the bomb on a site as well.
Yeah, it seems like yet another impossible round here, but if Nothing does actually manage to pull this off, it will be absolutely amazing. It might just be what would swing the momentum in his team's favour. The leader, the in-game leader, having to put his team on the back, and there's the first one actually now. Just a second to find this RPK. He's got very good positioning though, and I'm not sure that Nothing will be paying too much attention to the door area, as it is a bit of an unusual angle to play, especially when you have the bomb inside of the site, but definitely the right angle to pick from RPK here.
Especially if they know that Nothing is as low as he is. They just need to land one shot and that's it, and there we go. The 1v1 not lasting too long on the actual overlay. At Cloud9, after going for pistols, I'm going to have an offer on AK Skadoodle though. Maybe going for a Tech 9 with armor behind it so we can get the full grenades. I'll be curious to see if he goes for that or the Galil instead. I feel like maybe more utility would be the order of play, but the way that Cloud9 have been setting up so far, fair enough, it's the AK. They want to go for those entries, they want to go for the aggressive play, and there is enough utility on the rest of the team.
Yeah, Skadoodle, the only man who doesn't have a single grenade, and the others do have quite a few actually. It's always nice to have a few smokes to play with when you're on the T side. Also, of course, on the CT side, but it's a bit of a different use you do have. Now this time Nothing's going to be throwing his smoke so that they can get into the checkered area, and it's obviously going to be Stewie who's going to be using the smoke to his advantage, as we know him the best. He's actually going to be pushing through, so now he's actually out towards the site, gets the entry frag onto existence, and that definitely opens up the round.
Yeah, that was massive for Cloud9, but again, it's just going to be RPK this time. They're throwing them 3 frag spins around, very nearly lands a 4th. 2-on-2, over a minute to play with. The bomb was dropped, but it's easily salvageable from Cloud9's perspective. They will be forcing their way onto the B plant. Shox He's lurking. He's spotted. Can nothing get the better of him? Negligible damage, and Shox will finally put him down. All on Shroud. 1 versus 2. He's trying to fake out one of these pesky CTs from their hidey holes. And now he's just eating fire damage as a result. Comes back in again. At least he knows roughly where the last 2 remaining players are, so he can go for this plant. He feels confident enough that no one would push him. From 2 separate angles. You can see why Shox decided to go all the way through. Vents just to try and screw with Shroud, who still thinks that maybe he's over on the T side of B main. Here comes the charge, and Smith connects the AWP shot. Cloud9 are getting demolished.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about going into this game how heartbreaking it must have been for G2 to actually end up losing that game versus Astralis, but being Cloud9 being 8-1 down, and then, you know, getting 2 entries into a round and yet still lose in the round, and now this, you know, once again they get the entry frag into the round, then RPK steps up, I think got 2 or even 3 kills just right off the bat, and it's a complete turnaround. Then Smith's using his Molotov on the hotspot, meaning that Shroud is pushed back into the backside, and then Shox also has a Molotov and uses it on hotspot, so they kind of rule out every single position except for the backside, and they can fairly easily clean him up in the end.
It's a really good point. It's like game of chess, you're maneuvering your enemy where you want them to be, so you can strike. Now Smith comes around the corner, dispatches the pace, and Cloud9 didn't even really get a chance to see all the action. RPK once again steps up tall, 2 kills for him, still alive with 22 HP, nothing in Shroud. We've seen these 2 try and battle against the odds before, hasn't paid off for them as of yet, and it's just got a whole lot worse. Cloud9 just seem completely shattered. They're not playing with cohesion. They're not able to get any executes down. They're not even getting entry frags, and that's the key point here. Like, when they're not getting entries with, you know, the likes of Freakazoid, Stewie, and Shroud, things are going horribly wrong.
When you have an in-game leader like Nothing, who, while he's an experienced player, he's not so much an experienced in-game leader. What you'd probably end up doing quite a bit here, we have the double entry frag from Shroud actually playing as a replay, but what you'd be probably doing a lot of the time would be going out on a standard, especially on a map like Cash, where that is definitely a viable strategy, and you'd be mid-round calling. But if you can't find those entry frags, if your players can't play together and actually get those entry frags without a deliberate execute, it's going to be very, very hard for you when you are probably the inferior in-game leader. I don't think that's too much of a stretch.
Definitely not. Existence is relevant to the best in-game leaders in the world right now. Nothing pretty new to this role. A 2-for-1 trade, but we have seen this before from Cloud9, and they were unable to convert the advantage into a round itself. And this definitely isn't an 11-4 sort of half cash. It's a lot more even than that. So Cloud9 up against it. Bomb at least has been planted. Going to try and salvage the 4 rounds out of this half, but Smith is on the prowl. In vent, everybody on G2 pretty healthy. They still have 2 key utility in the sense of Incendiary and Smoke. Incendiary was thrown into Checker just behind the box to try and get rid of any terrorists that were maybe hiding behind that. And now G2 throwing the screw. Smith will be charging in. The kill on Shox is pretty significant, and Smith is going to find himself under the same fate. This is much better from Cloud9, but is it too little too late?
Not necessarily. We see comebacks all the time. We've seen a few here at the tournament as well that didn't quite pay off in the end, but still they got quite close. I really like the idea behind this play from G2. What they were actually doing was they got up very close to the bomb site and then just held angles. They do have a bit of economy, and there are not too many rounds left, but Cloud9 don't. So if they could get some exit frags and then Cloud9 also winning the round, that means that they can reset them on the next one, and they're going to be having pretty much no money and therefore utility for the coming few rounds here. So I'm kind of sad that the guy in Toxic actually went down so early. That meant that they had an exit route, and therefore they had to go for it.
Seems like C9 again just setting up for this A play, but we don't really see any of those smokes connecting just yet. 3 still in the hands with 2 HEs, 3 HEs pardon me, and plenty of flashbangs. G2 playing it passive. We saw this earlier today as well, and Cloud9 just couldn't get rid of them. Seriously struggled on their T half. Their CT was much stronger. The problem is, do they have enough foundations to build off? Because if you go into the second half of like 4 rounds, any mistake can get punished so hard. Existence takes out Skadoodle. That's going to force Shroud's hand somewhat into going for an instant revenge frag, and he at least gets the 1. He's down to 7 HP. Anything, a gust of wind at this point, we're taking down and out. And somehow still alive from the spray from Scream, who does get himself the kill onto Freakazoid. And again, surprise, surprise, Nothing and Shroud in a 2 versus 4.
Yeah,
Although, Nothing's creeping.
Yeah, he's got a very good lurk, but that's kind of the point here. You know, you've got a guy in arguably the most powerful position you can be in a T-half, where you've pushed through the CT connector, and the opposition still don't know your position. And yet, the two players that are playing A main and door, they're both peeking and end up actually dying. So his lurk just, yeah, doesn't really work anymore. And I mean, it's essentially just his teammates messing up his phenomenal play there.
The flash is Scream actually going to go for the push. We saw Existence do this earlier. And another rush out from Cloud9, purely off the basis of a lack of armory and grenades. The Molotov kill from Smiths is going to take out Skadoodle. Stewie 2K and Nothing this time with it all to do. And Shox is just on form. Consistently today, he's been one of the standout players from G2. Nothing. And I'll be coming in last. Headshot delivered. First class onto Existence. 3 more players to find, and RPK will be the man to finalise the half. 13-2 on CT side of Cash.
Dominant display. I don't think there's
not much to say, really.
Yeah, there's really a dominant display is just really all you need. RPK, I think he's the man of the match for me. He's got 16-4, and he's not only is he consistently getting frags, he's got over 1 kill per round, just barely, but also he's putting up some massive rounds here where he's just completely turning the rounds around, I guess you could say. But at the same time, it's not just that, it's from seemingly impossible positions on the map with T's from every single direction, and yet he manages to pick up 2 or 3 pretty much every single time. Fantastic stuff from him.
And I was worried. I was thinking, G2, how was your mindset coming into this game? You just lost a crushing defeat against Astralis, not in the sense they got wrecked, but in the sense they were so close. They were within touching distance of winning. Well, the answer, 13-2. I think we've got action, by the way, guys, so if we could jump back into the game, that would be fantastic. I mean, as attractive as a G2 lot are, I'd rather see some pistol frags. Cloud9 have bagged themselves 2, so it gives them at least a glimmer of hope here, at least in the pistol round. Again, it's the long trek after the pistol round that really counts. It's the long yards. Freakazoid. He's going to take down Shox and get himself a second kill. A clean sweep from Cloud9. All right, fair enough. But can he keep it going?
It would have been fitting for us to miss both pistol rounds. That would have been fitting. But yeah, I mean, they got the first important round out of the way. It's 2 fantastic headshots from Shroud, but this is just the start. You know, winning a pistol round, normally you kind of take a sigh of relief, but 13-3, this is they've only just begun.
There's no room for error, really. You screw up a couple times, that's it, you're done. Even once, actually, is probably more than enough. So G2 will be forcing up here with a couple deagles. Shox with deagle today, by the way, has been a revelation, especially on train. Landed a couple of crazy drive-by headshots. The first kill has gone the way of G2 King Win, but Skadoodle at range will dispatch Existence. And here is the man, Shox with the deagle. One tap Stewie. Scream down to 10. And flashed to boot. The Cloud9 in a pretty decent position to retake the site. The only downside is you don't have any explosive ordnance to get back on the site. It's just the smoke and flashbangs. 3-on-3. Nothing. With the spray down for the FAMAS, but RPK gets the upper hand. And now Skadoodle has the task to charge onto the site by his lonesome. FAMAS headshot will take him out. And now Shroud with an MP9. The good news for Cloud9, he's on 100% of his HP. The bad news is that Smiths has the MP7 and just wrecks him. And that pretty much just sums it up for me. Cloud9 had the chance, they had the opportunity, and it was flushed down the toilet.
I mean, when Shox gets the kill onto the guy quad, and you have the kind of lurk play from Scream where he's coming up high where no one knows. He essentially has 2 players who are just standing there waiting to take a headshot. He unfortunately misses the shot and blows his cover, but that's a huge mess up by Scream, and they still end up winning the round. I think that really shows how dominant this performance is.
I certainly don't envy the analyst's task after this game, to trying to pick the pieces what went wrong here. Just everything, really, from Cloud9. They had to force bite. They're in a position now where the back's against the wall. They have to come out swinging. And so therefore Shroud has himself the Scout and Scoodle with the Deagle. A couple players are a couple of times away from death, one of which is Stream on 1 HP. But now it's on Shroud with his Scout. And it's not going to happen. 15-3. And a simple task for Cloud9, and I say that obviously sarcastically, is just win the next 12 rounds, boys.
Yeah, and then also win the overtime. Shouldn't be too hard. This should also be Cloud9's map pick, I would assume. We kind of missed the veto, but
I will double check that for you.
Yeah, because it was earlier, so it'd be weird if they had completely turned around. I don't see Cloud9 picking Train.
They're typically going to pick every time it's available.
I don't really see why they would pick Train when they go absolutely demolished.
They pick Cash,
yeah. So this is their map pick. Bear in mind, we saw Stewie being so aggressive and so kind of fluid in his movement, and this game he's just been absolutely invisible. Yeah, it's like he didn't show up.
Last time these two met each other earlier today, went right down to the wire. This has been anything but close. And it's just a case of Cloud9 get into position and instantly get picked off, just as you switch to one player after another. Headshots, headshots, headshots. G2 Kingwin have won it as convincingly as you could ask for. 16-3 on Cloud9's choice of map. So we now move across to Train. And it's just ridiculous. I don't even know what to say at this point.
I mean, we need to obviously emphasize the fact that this is just the first map, so there is a chance for Cloud9, but it doesn't look too well right now.
It certainly doesn't. So I believe we've been instructed to go for a quick commercial break for a couple minutes, guys. So stay tuned. We'll be right back for map number 2, which will be Train.